My friends, we are live. Continuing on my rambling series on the occult and forbiddenness. The Midnight series with Stash. I had a question last night from Gabe from Brazil. Zoroastrian. What is Zoroastrianism? I'm going to do another vlog on that. I'm somewhat up on that. It's considered by some or most people to be the first monotheistic religion. That's one God out of Persia. You may be familiar with Thus Spoke Zarathustra by Nietzsche. So they believed in one God. The central prophet is Zarathustra. And I'm going to get back into it another evening as we gab together. But they believed that the fire was pure and that the body was corrupt, and they had special burial rites, burning, of which the dead would have to be gazed upon by a special dog, which he had formations that he looked like. I believe he looked like he had 4 eyes. As a disclaimer, I don't think I have that exactly right, but I thought that was very interesting that the fire is pure, but the body is corrupt. It is out of Persia. It is pre-Islamic. So now getting to my fascinating topic of Dr. John Dee. I'm going to do a bunch on John Dee. We were gabbing about Crowley, so now we talk about Dee. So Dee was the astrologer and occultist to Queen Elizabeth I. Probably some people would dispute this, but Queen Elizabeth I was by far the most fantastic leader of England. She was the Peter the Great of England. That's gross. Yeah, so, well, a troller. A heckler. Come on, we're talking about Dee. I'm talking about Dee. This thing can be a distraction. Okay, so, yeah, I mean, he came up with the term British Empire. And his number was, of course, 007. And James Bond is definitely a tribute to Dee, at least in some ways, or in every way. I'm just going to probably make this short tonight, but this will be part 1 of Dee. So there is a number of fairly new, contemporary, excellent books on Dee. One I would highly recommend would be John Dee and the Empire of Angels, Enochian Magic, Occult Roots of the Modern World. by a guy named Jason Louv. I actually was fooling, was kind of messing around again, experimenting with slideshow type of YouTubes or stuff like that, and I put out the D monad for meditation. And that author on the social media, he liked it. So I heard from Jason. I guess it's really interesting. And another one of these YouTubes I was talking about, it was interesting how these occultists are kind of pushing for the apocalypse. They're driving forth. It's kind of like a Faustian bargain, and different guys like Parsons talk about it. Jack Parsons, the occultist of the OTO. Crowley certainly did. And Dr. John Dee talked about it. And so, he talked about angels, and his style of magic was Enochian. He developed a communication with angels. And politically, he was an agent of the Queen. It's just like Bond. Basically, if you mess with Her Majesty, you're going to have to deal with Bond. 007. So there's all these sinister enemies of 007, but basically, in the end, we all know that it's just like the song says. He's going to give the other fellow hell. Live and let die. He wins. You get in the way of the British Empire, and you're going to get fucked up by James Bond. Walsingham was the head of the early British intelligence service under the Queen, and he's just as much as a big figure, I guess. But Dee is the lasting one who had the vision of developing the British Empire. I've only got one listener. One chaos magic dude. Shit. But yeah, I highly recommend that book, John Dee and the Empire of Angels, The Cult Roots of the Modern World, Enochian Magic. It's a huge tome. This would be kind of in contrast to what we were talking about the other nights, like Secret Society, Psychological Warfare. Those, and Kent Bain. Those would be books that are probably very much contrary to what Jason Louv was talking about. So I think it was a gamer. I was just hearing from I'm a gamer. Interrupting my vlog. Please. If you're going to troll, say something interesting, will you? That's the way of the internet now. Everybody just says just bullshit. I'm bringing up both sides here. Gamers and chaos magicians alike. Please. Alright. So, yeah. I'm drifting. But this is fascinating. So, yeah, I highly recommend it. But the other point was there was a YouTube way back I was talking about. Oh, why do these guys seem to be going for it? I mean, isn't it separate? And the world's religions have a lot of mysticism into it, and a lot of mystery. um, nowadays, angel magic and and all and the Wiccan and all these things are very acceptable. But back in the day of Dee, although he was of great value to the Queen, it's my understanding that he had to watch out. I think he was accused of trafficking in witchcraft stuff, and I think even he had the finest library in all of England on the Mortlake, just like Aleister Crowley had his mansion on Boleskine, the Boleskine House and the Loch Ness. Um, Dee had his. Oh, nice. There's a long-time viewer. Yeah, I had a lot of weird ones about the CERN. From a certain perspective, the CERN is a form of high magic. Science is indistinguishable magic. Arthur C. Clarke. Thanks, man. Good to hear from you. So there's a carryover from England to the New World. Um, in fact, I think that Dee speculated that they would reach a new utopian land, a new Atlantis, if you will, and that would be America. So it's it's somewhat a continuation of the whole British thing, although there was a revolution and the colony split. The vision is more or less. I would say there's also a Roman influence at play, also in because London is really Londinium. It's a so it was a Roman construct. It was in England, perhaps because of the success of Elizabeth that carried on. She was into reaching out. Um, that's why we have in the Senate, the bundle of sticks binded together. That's from the Senate. That would be actually a lot of people are, very weary of that. That unity symbol is, I believe, is of the fasci. So I'm gonna re-talk about some of this stuff tomorrow night when I'm more awake. But I figured I'd start with number one. And very interesting point that that the John Dee book by Jason is that the world's huge. Now let me see if I wait. Well, that's a good question. That's really interesting. Let me get to you in a second. Where the heck was I? Oh, I just wanted to finish. What was I saying? Damn it! All right, let's go to your question. I forgot what I was talking about. Why I don't understand is how people make free time to do these esoteric orders and Freemasonic ceremonies and all this high magic. Well, that is a good question. Okay, so Crowley, for instance, was into those esoteric orders. He inherited a lot of money and he used it in that manner. So he partook in the ceremony magic. So it's primarily, I guess the short answer would be, it's primarily a thing that the elite people do. They are highly educated, and then they make time to to be involved in these secret societies, secret orders. But that's it. It's not a game for the hoi polloi. What the regular people had, that is less and less, what the regular people had was the Odd Fellows Club and Veterans Clubs and the bowling leagues and things like that after a hard day's work. And those things, unfortunately, are leaving society. And those were pretty good because people had the like Fred Flintstone, the Loyal Order of Water Buffaloes, um, in clubs and bowling things. That they were good in that people would get together and they would sort of push back, ironically. Um, Niall Ferguson talks about that in one of his books. That's bad. And there's another book called Bowling Alone. That people are not spending time together. So even though they didn't have much free time, and people never did, um, they still work together, and then we're in these clubs. Even Masons and stuff, is less. I think there's a less of a big deal. But I think what you're saying, Tars 676, is exactly right. It's really for doing these actual rites and stuff. If you believe that in this sort of thing, that it's real, you would need to have some dough and some time to be a serious contender. So in Dr. John Dee's case, he was a professional astrologer and an occultist guy, so he was paid by the Queen to conjure. And the timing may be a little bit off, but some people think that it was really mysterious that when they confronted the Spanish fleet in an amazing naval battle, that they lost because of Dee's trafficking with the angels and the demons and whatnot. But what does all this have to do with energy? Does light energy become reality with these higher orders and stuff like that? Yeah, those kind of questions are I think debated all the time. I mean, I'm not any magical group or secret society or anything like that. But they now throughout the YouTube world, they now openly discuss a lot of their stuff. And now there's a lot of these esoteric books are now more and more widely available, so people are checking them out. People who never in history had any access to it, and the questions that are raised are, um, some people say that it's purely psychology, that if you engage in this, what are you talking, like light energy, light work, that um, it's archetypes, it's you dealing with life in psychological terms. So he's like, I'm contacting this entity, this being, and it's matched up. Like a lot of women say, well, I worship the goddess, or men have their thing, or it's archetypical. I think the hugest thing now is probably the Marvel comics has taken up a lot of the, so people are like putting their values on it, I don't I'm tired of the superheroes are just guys or something. I want them to be different genders and stuff. So um so it's psychological, and then some people think it's real. It's real. Everything, it's all real. And I think all of it needs to be treated seriously and not to be dabbled with. without being aware of the consequences. Then what happens to the people that are at the low levels that want to find truth and they study these higher knowledge, but they're not rich? hmm. My only answer would be uh, it's just like anything else. You got to put the work into it and read books about it. Read books that uh, I don't think everybody into this type of thing, if you're interested in it, are necessarily wealthy. If you really want to find out about these things, you can put the work into it. I don't think you necessarily have to be a wealthy person for it. Um, I don't know if the people who are successful in it are solely wealthy. And I don't agree with everything the guy says. Of course, there's another guy that reminds me of people who are interested in ushering in a change, a Promethean Luciferian kind of change, and that's this guy A.E. Coetting. You can see his videos, and I think he was a guy who, I think he's a guy who really built himself up. I've checked out some of his YouTubes from time to time. He absolutely is not a wealthy guy. He really um, worked his way up from deep poverty in the deserts of and the salt deserts of the salt barren wasteland of Utah. Um, I'm mostly doing these things as commentary. I'm not advocating people get into occultism. I just did these YouTubes, I think, because for the heck of it, because it's interesting, but two, to give my take on maybe some criticism of it, and I don't know how you feel. Maybe my distaste of people completely dismissing the spiritual. Um, the whole aspect of it, the negative, the positive. This is probably going way off topic, but if you're talking about getting knowledge and building yourself up, the Masonic scholar Manly P. Hall writes about where is the evil magic these days when he was writing it, and he said, well, it and this is kind of interesting. He said it's the self-help books, which is interesting. And I'm not trying to say anything bad or anything about if it changed your life and said you read The Secret, or you read, like, when you go to the bookstores now. I mean, there's like there's like at least 3 aisles of like, you know self-help and The Secret and The Secret Part 2. Um, and Manly P. Hall said basically that's the new black magic of our age. I've even said funny things like, you know, if you learn the law of attraction, you want to manifest stuff. I mean, technically, is that devil worship? Which I know. Sorry, I know people can say this guy is saying the secret. I do The Secret, and I have an MBA, and my mom does it, and we're millionaires. And shut up. But there is an aspect of it like I'm asking to manifest. And isn't that kind of a breaking down thing? Oh yeah. Gnostic, and the Saturn moon matrix reincarnation. That is very interesting. Have you seen? Some cats have made some incredible, interesting but paranoid but interesting stuff on Saturn. Like everything comes from Saturn, and they talk about. Yeah, I don't know if you saw. I did some weird ones like this. Beware of the set Saturn mate me. Because it's fascinating. I mean, and not to mention that the different satellites traveling got a picture of the hexagram. I think it's both, and if I remember right, both the north and south poles, right, of Saturn. And it is interesting. Yeah, reincarnation's fascinating. The Tibetan tradition. Gnostic is people are very scared of talking about stuff like that, but it's you know I am a fan of learning and reading. I'm not really a fan of not checking that stuff out. And it comes with a risk. It could hurt you and those around you. It could test your faith and stuff. But you've got to learn. You know, just don't view yourself as somebody who's taking of the apple and being mean to the people who have those traditions. Just learn, and But anyway, yeah. Did you check out those? Oh, I'll leave it in line notes. There. I'm not saying I buy into everything, but that astrology or the stars, the planets, we were in a different position, and the theory is that the hexagram of Saturn was visible from the Earth from a different angle, so they could actually see what I think it's called the Cassini satellite saw. You know, so that is like um, amazing. One guy. Uh, you're talking about, but what? How about if it was like being a spiritual type of thing? Would like a mental psychological life lies in the mind? Hmm. I don't know if I understand your question or comment. I would say just both those realities exist, right? Oh yeah, astrology. I only know. I know only. I'm not a practicing astrologer, but I know that there's just a, you know, those sciences kind of interact basically. I know somebody. I was gonna vlog about that. Somebody takes it very serious. I mean, the Washington D.C. was founded during a certain astrological period, and 4th of July is when the Sirius rays connect to our own sun's rays, and it's quote unquote scientists hate astrology, but it's huge. But um, we're still left on an imprint of what the ancients did. They were more into the the gods were the planets, so Saturn, Kronos, they were very, very yeah. There's no doubt that there is the higher knowledge. There's a lot of deliberate hiding. Although more and more people are making it available, or it's coming out, especially because of the as the internet goes on and on. People are revealing more of these secrets, but I would agree with you that they're kept deliberately, and obviously people who are masters of the secrets don't always have Asta Joe public six-pack people the best intentions for them all the time either. So as I've discussed in the streaming the last nights and stuff. In fact, you could there's a dark side to the whole British Empire thing too. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Sorry to anybody who's a fan of D and Bond, but they've done a lot of shit kicking. That and the psychedelics. Yeah, I mean the esoteric order. It's all secret. It reminds me of like the martial arts in the West. I mean, fair enough. There's this idea that the secrets have come over, and that's very much under dispute. It's like people like the MMA guys are like the traditional martial arts don't work in kung fu, this and that. The truth is there's secrets, and the West keeps secrets from the East, and the East keeps secrets from the West. And also the way we look at yoga and martial art and esoteric stuff is different, and there's just so yeah, I mean the there's still a lot of this knowledge and access to it is hidden. And even though we have the internet and we have more access and we have obviously more and more books published, there's also a lot of stuff that's lost, suppressed, a lot of disinformation, that the higher orders hide. Anyway, my brother, it's pretty late where I am. Thank you for getting back to me. I was a little bit off tonight, a little bit tired, so I'm gonna we'll probably be hit back here tomorrow night, gabbing. And TARS. Give me your comments and thoughts in the below. And that's some really interesting comments. And I hope all is well where you are, my friend. And everybody. This has been part 1. I will probably, unfortunately, I was a little tired tonight. I will probably reiterate and repeat some of this tomorrow night. But this is since I've been doing all this esoteric weirdness, this would be probably the most important aspect of it. Yeah, some questions. All right. Have a good night, brother. And so tomorrow, probably late tomorrow, we'll be doing more D. Thanks for the questions, and have a great night, everybody.